Hi, I'm Tami Walker, manager of Boxy Queens. Thanks for joining me as I show you how I build my abandoned diner to go with my diecast diorama collection. I started out with a piece of blue foam, 2 inches thick, 12 inch by 10 inches. I actually drew out my abandoned diner design right there onto the foam, and I transferred those over to the balsa wood and cut them out. I get my balsa wood from midwestproducts.com, and I use 1/16 inch by usually 4 inches or 6 inches by 36 inches long. So I've cut out all of my edges and sides, and I'm starting to draw in the windows on each piece, which then I'll use my little knife and cut those out. My door is about 1.25 inches by 5/8 inch. I usually try to keep that same size with a lot of my scale models, and just showing you where I'm going to put the back door there. I don't need to cut the back door out. I can just frame it out. It all depends on the grain of the wood and how I want it. I've framed in the front door there, and I started cutting out pieces for the trim around the tops and the bottoms of all the windows. I've got some packaging plastic I'm using. I like to recycle a lot of things and use what I have around me to work for my projects. And I pre-painted all the trim for the windows just so I don't have to try to paint around the plastic later on. Fits nicely in glued. I got a couple little breaks I cut out of the windows and some cracks in there, and put it together. I usually will paint it after most everything is put together just to keep the wood strong and from warping. And let's see, I'm making the countertops, and like a lot of old-fashioned diners, they usually had candy in this section right next to the cash register. Just remember that as a kid. I've printed out a checkered floor, but my black ink kind of died on me, and I said, well, that is good enough. I like it. I will put some watered down black all over the floor to make it look aged. I've got my first little countertop section. The second one built. I need to paint that. And the back wall separating the kitchen from, I guess, the coffee area. I found this picture that actually when you look at it through this angle, it looks like a bunch of shelves on the wall when it's just a city on a hill. And I put another little picture back there just for filler. And I painted the walls to look like there used to be pictures on there and someone took it off. You know, a lot of the stuff you're barely going to see, but just a little bit of realism in there. And I've got to paint and make the booths. And here I'm making stools with just buttons and skewers. And I put it just painted some paper hole punched out and glued them right onto the top. And that looked pretty good in there with the booths. And the booths were just little balsa wood I cut up and glued into little booths. I like it. It looks pretty good. Oops, I didn't paint the back of that one. I'll have to go back in and do that. So now I'm just going to paint every place where the dirt's going to be that Bambi brown. And I also put around the edges and everything, which I'm still deciding what I'm going to do with those edges, how much work I need to do. Maybe I'll just paint them all black and I'll have to worry about it too much. So now I'm just slowly painting on the Mod Podge. I'm just trying to be careful to stay in the lines that I gave myself because I don't want dirt. I want my building to sit flatly on here. I don't want my dirt on it. And I usually sometimes do this after the building is on, but I thought I would try my static grass without the building because some of the static grass I'm having a hard time getting to stick straight up. So I thought I would try this, and it worked out pretty good. I just had a couple filler places to fill in. So I got dirt from my yard pretty much. I go out there, put in a pan, dry it out, and use different screens to screen out different layers of dirt. And you know, very simple to do. And you can use moss for grass too. You can pretty much use a lot of different things you have in the yard just to make your own dioramas. I just sprinkled down the gravel first in a little bit of spots and then poured the dirt right over the top of it so I'd have a nice kind of like faded gravel look in the yard. And that's the other side of my booths. And I've got it all put together. Looking pretty good. I still have a little bit more to do the front. I have my "Sorry We're Closed" sign. I used a button to represent the clock there on the wall, and now I've sprayed the glue down all over the dirt. And if you've seen my other videos, I've shown you how I've done that. I melted a hole through the bottom there and out through the back, made a little balsa wood box, and I'm going to hook my lights up into there, my LED. So, and I put that little paper on the back of the wall just so the light wouldn't bleed through the wall, or else I'd need to put more layers of paint on there. I'm using my autumn and wild meadow static grass mainly because those are the two longest sizes that I have. So I just do use what I have. So I've got that on there. I'm going to dump that grass off, and I'm going to take some of that fine weeds, dark green, fine turf I have, and sprinkle it on while it's still wet in different places. I will come back here and individually add different tufts of grass and weeds around. It's time to glue the building down, so I'm hooking up the lights. I checked to make sure the lights look good at that position and taped them in. Painted the box up and just slide it in there. That's just a kind of a temporary fix because these will be added to other dioramas. I put a piece of balsa wood over the top and put my light on there, and I just thought it looked so cool how it glowed inside. So I thought I'd share that with you. I decided it's best to have a sign for our business, and we named it Tom's Texas Toast after my dad. So I'm just making that out of balsa wood, and since this is an abandoned diner, I don't need to have any lights for it. I use a watered down black acrylic, and I just covered every single thing with this to make everything look aged and old. And just going around and working at different parts and back and forth, and here I'm working on the front parking lot and filling it in with some tiny moss and little details, and just using everything that I have and trying to keep it similar to the other dioramas that I've made, such as the abandoned house and the abandoned gas station and the abandoned tow yard. Well, the sign actually will go onto the roadway diorama, and that's the one that will be connecting all the dioramas together. I'll be adding a ditch and some drainage pipes and making a video of that for the future. I added a for-lease sign there with the famous Jenny's phone number and cut out some diamond patterns for the top edge of the diner there. And I have my limousine. It was pretty beat up already, so I just added some browns and oranges to make it look a little rusty. And there wasn't any pictures of tops of diners, so I just put a couple buttons together to look like exhaust vents. And I think that's going to work. I'm sure there's other little pipes up there too. I've got the light on. You can barely see it in the kitchen there. And this place probably been abandoned about 5 years in my little world. And I've got the graffiti on the back there for the year 2020 and wrote my name. And there's been so many owners of this place over the years, so there's not really a solid story with this one. My next projects will be the roadway and a photo booth, which was inspired by a movie I just watched called Wilder Napalm, and it was pretty neat and reminded me of when I was a kid. There was a photo booth in our town, and I always thought that's such a tiny little building you have to hang out in. So I've really had fun with this project. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.